Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. The Israel-Iran war enters the second week. Trump buys 2 weeks' time to decide whether or not to plunge the United States into the heart of the conflict. Ministers from the European Union and Iran set to hold talks in Geneva. Stocks rebound across the world as Trump delays Iran decision. Sensex and Nifty gain 1% this week thanks to Friday rally. Crude oil prices cool after rising 10% this week. India and European Union are working towards a full substantial free trade agreement by the end of 2025 and not an interim deal. EU ambassador calls India to ease tariffs on automobiles, pharma and alcohol, says EU will not drop the carbon tax, calling it an integral part of climate action. That's an exclusive. DMK MP Dayanithi Maran sends a legal notice to brother and media baron Kalanithi Maran alleging fraud and money laundering, demands restoration of a 22-year-old ownership structure. Sun TV calls it a personal matter between promoters and all legal obligations were met before listing. After TCS, Andhra government sold over 21 acres land in Visakhapatnam to Cognizant for a token lease price of 99 paise. Cognizant commits to invest close to 1,600 crores to build an IT campus in the city, which is expected to generate around 8,000 jobs over 8 years. 220 victims identified so far, 8 days after the Ahmedabad Air India plane crash that killed 241 out of 242 people on board. Air India cancels 8 flights, citing enhanced maintenance and operational reasons. 4 of them were overseas flights. Growing fears over the Dharavi redevelopment project as nearly 1 million residents could be pushed out along with their livelihoods. The Adani Group is leading the 95,000 crore rupee project to revamp one of the world's largest slums in Mumbai. The Bombay High Court terms deaths of commuters on Mumbai locals alarming. This after Railways filed an affidavit showing 3,588 fatalities in 2024 alone. This amounts to 10 deaths on average every day. 16 billion passwords and login credentials have been leaked online, according to a Forbes report. This includes user accounts on Google, Facebook, Apple, among others, in what is possibly the biggest data breach in history. All right, our top focus, the conflict between Israel and Iran has entered the second week, with both sides continuing to exchange heavy fire. The Israeli military has said it attacked dozens of military sites in Iran overnight, added that over 60 fighter jets struck dozens of military targets using approximately 120 munitions. The military added that several industrial sites used to manufacture missiles were struck in Tehran as well. They claim that these sites served as a key industrial center for the Iran's defense ministry. Tel Aviv also claimed that Iran fired cluster bombs at Israel with an aim to increase civilian casualties. Israel, meanwhile, bombed a northern Iranian city. The attack caused a massive explosion in the area, prompting people to evacuate the region immediately. Israel's strike also reportedly hit the Safed Road industrial park located in North Iran. Reports suggest that Iranian missiles targeted Israel's tech park in Beersheba that also housed Microsoft's office. Plumes of fire was reported outside the tech giant's office, while residential buildings also suffered significant damage. As per the Israeli emergency services, 5 people were reportedly injured and were taken to a nearby hospital. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister issued a stern warning to Hezbollah for extending its support to Iran. This comes after the head of the militant group vowed all forms of support to Iran in its war with Israel. Foreign ministers from the UK, France and Germany are set to meet their Iranian counterpart in Geneva today to try and find a way to de-escalate the situation. The meeting comes after US President Donald Trump set a 2-week deadline to decide whether the US will join Israel's war against Iran.
Now, regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks. That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today. So the president is always interested in a diplomatic solution to the problems and the global conflicts in this world. Again, he is a peacemaker in chief. He is the peace through strength president. And so if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president's always going to grab it. But he's not afraid to use strength as well, I will add.
One should not forget that the EU has been in negotiation with Iran on its nuclear program for years. That was called the JCPOA. Unfortunately, this preferred way of actually reaching a deal never materialized. The EU has made its position very clear that Israel has a right to defend itself, that we've continually said that Iran was not compliant with its own obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and that there is still a window for diplomacy, and that Iran would be well advised to seize that window for diplomacy.
We as a country, we as a free nation, we expect the other free nations and other countries to condemn these vicious actions, these unlawful military attacks against civilians, against the children, women, in order to make them stop this aggression.
Sensex and Nifty witnessed healthy gains in today's trading session, with frontline indices rising more than 1% each. Nifty closed above the 25,100 mark after 6 trading sessions for the week. Today's gains helped market regain losses of last week. Sensex and Nifty rose more than 1% each, while mid-caps slipped 1%. From currencies to commodities, crude prices softened, with Brent falling nearly 2%. The gains were trimmed after the White House delayed a decision on USA's involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict. Remember, oil prices surged amid fears of increased US involvement in Israel's conflict with Iran. However, prices are still on track for a third straight week of gains. Onto a money control exclusive, DMK MP Dharavi Maran has sent a legal notice to his brother and Sun TV chairman Kalanidhi Maran. The MP has alleged that his elder brother executed a fraudulent scheme to take control of Sun TV after their father's death in 2003. Sun TV has called the issue the promoter's personal matter. The network shares declined 4% in trade. Money Control's Chandra Shrikant is here with more.
Sun TV shares are in focus after Money Control's report of a feud between the Maran brothers, Kalanidhi Maran, the chairman of Sun TV, and his younger brother, Dayanidhi Maran, former union minister and currently a DMK leader. Now, Sun TV has clarified to exchanges that this is a family matter and will not impact the day-to-day functioning of the company. They've also said that some of these allegations in these media reports are inaccurate and misleading. Now, why is Sun TV in focus? Well, Dayanidhi Maran has sent Kalanidhi Maran a legal notice accusing him of indulging in fraudulent practices over the last couple of decades to wrest majority control of Sun TV. Remember, Kalanidhi Maran is a 75% owner of Sun TV network, one of India's most profitable listed media firms, and he's one of India's also richest entrepreneurs with a net worth of over $2 billion. Now, in his legal notice, Dayanidhi Maran has threatened to invoke action by various regulators, including the SFIO, to DGCA, to other agencies, if Kalanidhi Maran does not restore the original shareholding that was there in 2003, when the Maran and the Kalanidhi families had 50-50% in the present Sun TV. So we'll have to wait and see how this proceeds. But for now, Sun TV clarifying to exchanges after their shares were trading lower in the day that this is purely a personal matter, a family matter, and will not impact the operations of the firm.
Right, thank you, Chandra, for that. The Andhra Pradesh government has sold over 21 acres of land in Visakhapatnam to Cognizant for 99 paise. Now, this move comes a couple of months after the state government inked a similar deal with TCS. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now for more. Shilpa, please take us through the contours of this deal.
Well, you know, after Tata Consultancy Services, it's now Cognizant that's getting land from the Andhra Pradesh government for just 99 paise. The government has sold over 21 acres of land in Visakhapatnam to Cognizant to set up a large development center. Now, as per lease terms, Cognizant will invest 1,582 crore rupees over the next 8 years. Now, the company is expected to generate over 8,000 jobs through this project, and the campus is likely to be operational by March 2029. Now, first TCS and now in April and now Cognizant in the same area. This move is part of the Andhra Pradesh government's broader push to turn Visakhapatnam into a major IT destination. TCS, if you remember, had committed 1,350 crore rupees and promised to create 12,000 jobs in the same area in Visakhapatnam. Now, while experts have questioned the revenue implication of leasing prime land at token rates, especially when the state is reeling under high debt, the state is actually betting on long-term economic gains, job creation, infrastructure development, and positioning Vizag as a credible alternative to traditional IT hubs like Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Chennai. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Shilpa, for that. Shifting focus now, India and European Union are working towards a full, substantial free trade agreement by the end of 2025. And not an interim deal. That's the word coming in from the EU ambassador to India. In an exclusive conversation with CNBC-TV18, Ambassador Irv Delphin called upon India to ease tariffs on automobiles, pharma and alcohol. He also said that EU will not drop the carbon tax, calling it an integral part of climate action. Take a look.
We have been getting reports that while we want to complete a full trade deal with the European Union by the end of the year, both sides may also have an early trade deal, an interim trade deal by July. Is there an ambition to do that? Are we close to that?
I think the July deadline seems to apply to another geography rather than to the EU. I think the message of our leaders, as I mentioned, was very clear: by the end of the year. So what matters most for us is not the fast and furious, and is a steady and progressive negotiation that really brings tangible results. I think most important is the substance of this trade deal. So we are not somehow bound by any artificial deadline by July or other. That doesn't really concern both the EU and India in their relations. So I think we are comfortable with the pace, with the intensity, the focus of the negotiation as we have them, and I think both sides are really determined to have really something substantive.
CBAMs and deforestation regulations, India has been seeking a carve-out from that. In fact, according to certain reports, Indian government is even mulling retaliating in case that CBAM tax, carbon tax, is imposed on Indian companies. This will only go into effect in January next year. Is there any possibility, any discussion for a carve-out from India, for India?
Based on the feedback that we receive from different constituencies and private sector, we have moved and gone through what we call a simplification package of CBAM, which just this week there's been an agreement between the Council and the Parliament on this CBAM simplification package. So what we want to do is to come back to the Indian partners and stakeholders to explain what it is. And indeed, the Federation of Industry in India, FICCI, has been a partner in that, in trying to bring the conversation, and we will have this interaction with the Indian private sector early July. And I think that will help also to pave a way forward. And last, I would like to point out that CBAM, or the equivalent of CBAM, has been taken out of the FTA with the UK. And we have always made the point that CBAM is not a trade instrument. It is an instrument which is part of our climate agenda action. So I think all these elements should point towards a position of the EU where we are confident that we can address the issues that India has with CBAM, but outside the FTA.
The price band for HDB Financial's public issue has been set at 700 to 740 rupees a share. The company plans to raise 12,500 crore rupees and will open on the 25th of June and close on the 27th of June. The company's public offering will be the largest since Hyundai Motor India's 27,000 crore rupee IPO. 8 days after the Ahmedabad Air India plane crash that killed 241 out of 242 on board, 220 victims have been identified so far. 202 bodies have been handed over to their families. Air India has cancelled 8 flights citing enhanced maintenance and operational reasons. 4 of them are overseas flights. Madiha Mujawar is here with more on this. Madiha.
Well, there are planned cancellations till mid-July, and then there are also daily cancellations due to the enhanced maintenance and operational reasons. So first, about planned reductions, Air India has announced a significant scale down of its international operations. The airline will be cutting 48 flights per week until mid-July, and this includes a complete suspension of routes like Delhi, Nairobi, Amritsar, London, Gatwick and Goa, London, Gatwick until the 15th of July. 38 flights have been cancelled to routes including North America, Europe, Australia, Japan and South Korea, and these flights are operated by the Boeing 787 and Boeing 777 aircraft, the ones that are currently undergoing safety inspections following the tragic AI-171 crash that was also operated by the 787 Dreamliner. So besides the enhanced pre-flight safety checks, Air India says that reductions in flights is also to accommodate airspace closures in the Middle East and the Pakistan airspace closure, which is requiring Indian airlines to take longer routes to Europe and the North American destinations. Now on daily flight cancellations, which are separate than the planned ones, Air India cancelled Dubai to Chennai, Delhi to Melbourne, Melbourne to Delhi, Dubai to Hyderabad flights on international routes. In domestic flights like Pune to Delhi, Ahmedabad to Delhi and Hyderabad to Mumbai and Chennai to Mumbai have also been cancelled, and there could be more additions to these daily cancellations as we speak.
All right, thank you Madiha for that update. On that note, we'll slip into a short break. Coming up next, growing fears over the Dharavi redevelopment project as nearly 1 million residents could be pushed out along with their livelihoods. More on that when we return. Welcome back. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has flagged the growing gap between the detection of tax leakages and recoveries. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that tax authorities have been urged to take steps to increase the amount recovered after evasion has been detected. Timsy Jaipuria has more. Timsy.
Well, that's right. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that CBIC's 2-day brainstorming conclave has ended, and Finance Minister in her address to the field formations has pushed officers to improve leakage recovery ratio. Finance Minister flagged the growing gap between detection of tax leakages against recoveries. Just to give a sense, what is this particular area? Well, the GST audit data pegs that pan-India recovery is at just 4,000 crore rupees versus a detection of leakage of about 34,000 crore rupees. Also, the GST audit data of the taxpayers which are under CGST regime is showing that the highest tax evasion was detected in Chennai, followed by Mumbai, Bengaluru and Hyderabad. Also, the data suggests that in FY24, enforcement arms under GST detected tax evasion, which was worth just a little over 10% of total tax collections. Further, in her address, Finance Minister pushed for faster cargo clearances by Customs Department across land, sea and airports. Also, she asked CBIC officers to identify pockets of high cash transactions and to convert them into formal economy. She also emphasized that the CBIC officers should ensure integrity of tax department is impeccable and unquestionable. She said that CBIC should speed up vigilance cases pending against officers for swifter justice. Also, Finance Minister asked CBIC officers to work towards addressing taxpayers' concerns, bringing in ease of doing business and grievance redressal as the key action points for the next coming quarters of this fiscal. Back to you.
Right. Thank you, Timsy, for that. Moving on, the master plan is now in place and the world's largest urban renewal project is ready to begin. But the 95,000 crore rupee plan to revamp Dharavi, one of the world's largest slums, is not being welcomed by everyone. CNBC-TV18 Shilpa Ranipeta reports that on the ground, there's growing fear that many of its nearly 1 million residents may be pushed out and their livelihoods with them. Take a look.
I'm standing in the heart of Mumbai in Dharavi, Asia's largest slum. It is a maze of lanes, by-lanes, alleyways. It has homes, it has workshops, it has shops. It is full of life. It is also one of the most valuable, fiercely contested and densely populated pieces of urban land in the world. And it is all set to change forever. Approved in 2022, the Dharavi redevelopment project promises to transform this city within a city. The entire project spans a gross area of 251 hectares. Of this, around 109 hectares have been marked as developable land. The remaining space is to be set aside for roads, public amenities and civic infrastructure like drains and high-tension power lines. The project is being executed by Nav Bharat Mega Developers, a joint venture between the Slum Rehabilitation Authority and the Adani Group. So far, over 4,500 crore rupees have been invested in both land acquisition and in the construction of around 1,000 homes and amenities on land handed over from the Indian Railways. At its core, the redevelopment plan is about the rehabilitation of Dharavi's nearly 1 million residents. But residents complain that the current master plan involves the construction of only 72,000 units. Around 58,500 of these will be residential units. This assumes that the population in redeveloped Dharavi will be around 4.85 lakh people, including the people who buy land or units that are eligible for sale.
यहाँ पे टोटल 1,15,000 से ज़्यादा रेसिडेंशियल और कमर्शियल है। यहाँ पे जो उन्होंने किया है वो अदानी के फ़ायदे के लिए जो 72,000 बोला उसमें रेसिडेंशियल भी है कमर्शियल में, वो उनका जो नंबर है वो बहुत गलत है।
खाली सुन में आ रहा कभी भी तोड़ना चालू कर देंगे, स्टैम्प मार के चले गए हैं तो हम लोग कहाँ जाएंगे? बच्चों का स्कूल कॉलेज यहीं पे है, कहाँ जाए कैसे सेटल करेंगे? सब बहुत प्रॉब्लम आ जाएगी, इसलिए हम लोगों का मतलब रिक्वेस्ट है कि यहीं पे दिया जाए।
The eligibility criteria of being assigned a home in redeveloped Dharavi is another bone of contention. Only people living in the ground floor residences with documents proving that their occupancy predates the year 2000 are eligible for free in-situ rehabilitation. Those on upper floors or those who do not have papers to prove occupancy will not get homes.
हमको नहीं चाहिए, हमको एक ही घर धराई में ही चाहिए, बाहर हमको नहीं चाहिए।
वहाँ देवनाथ डंपिंग में जाना तो वो हम लोग को गंवारा नहीं है, वैसे भी मरना है। डेवलपमेंट के बिल्कुल खिलाफ नहीं, लेकिन हमको हमारा घर धराई में मिले।
हम लोग डेवलपमेंट के कोई खिलाफ नहीं कि किसी लड़ाई हो रही है। मैं तो बोलो यहाँ पे इतना सारा फैक्ट्री चल रही है, काम है, यहाँ पे लोग इतना कमा रहे हैं, यहाँ पे सबको उजाड़ दोगे, जगह भी नहीं दे रहे हो किसी को, सब उजाड़ के फेंक दोगे तो लोग जाएंगे कहाँ?
But SVR Srinivas, the CEO of the project, says residents not eligible for new homes have an option.
So for those ineligible, the government has decided they will be given houses in hire purchase format, initially in the form of rental housing, but in the due course they can purchase the house also.
Dharavi is also a commercial hub for Mumbai. From leather to garments to food processing and recycling, thousands of small businesses operate here, forming an informal economy that's estimated at over 7,000 crore rupees. Residents fear that the redevelopment will destroy livelihoods that have thrived for generations.
अभी जो मास्टर प्लान बना कुछ दिया ही नहीं कि कहाँ देंगे जगह कमर्शियल की। अभी एक एक यूनिट में आप देखोगे ना तो कम से कम 30-30, 40-40 जन है। अब 40 अगर एक फैक्ट्री में 40 आदमी है तो उसके पीछे एक फैमिली में 5 जन पकड़ो तो कितने लोग इस पे चल रहे हैं, लाखों लोग मतलब पल रहे धरावी से। और ये धंधा कहीं और सेटअप जाएगा तो ये बर्बाद हो जाएंगे सब बिजनेसमैन लोग यहाँ से। नवी जगह जाके धंधा सेट नहीं होएगा।
The administration, however, says these fears are misplaced.
Those who are inside the commercial units inside Dharavi, they are ineligible. They will be given tenements from out of a 10% quota commercial space we have kept in each building.
But as the ambitious project takes off, it's the lack of trust that's defining the mood on the ground. In Mumbai, Shilpa Rani Peta.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18.